You know, the thing about Total Recall is it feels like one of them films you see on VHS when you was way too young and it's stuck in your head like a bad fever dream. Arnie's in it, of course. It is loud, it's violent, it's full of fake memories, real bullets and women that punch harder than most men. So you think you know what it is, but Total Recall is weird. Like, really weird. It never quite settles. It never tells you what's real, what's fake, what's fantasy, what's revelation. You come away feeling like it said something to you about the world, about yourself. But then you try and explain it and all that comes out is, well, there's this bit where he pulls a tracker out of his nose, and that's when it clicks. Maybe the reason this film won't leave you alone is because it saw something in you before you saw it yourself. Let's get this out of the way before we begin though. This is just my personal view. I'm not a film studies professor and I'm not here to give you the correct interpretation of this film. I'm just an insane Cockney hooligan with the hardest working mouth in the galaxy, and I've seen Total Recall enough times to know that there is far more going on than exploding heads and three-titted Martians. So let's begin. This film has been talked to death. Dream, reality, recall, Mars. People treat it like it's some sort of puzzle that needs solving. But I don't think Verhoeven wanted you to solve anything. I think he wanted you to feel uncomfortable. Total Recall isn't tidy. It's messy, sweaty, hormonal. It's full of contradictions and false memories and violence that borders on comedy. And yet somehow it all hangs together. That's not by accident. That's by design. In this video we're going to look at where all this madness came from, how it was made and what it was trying to say, whether it meant it or not. And then after all that, I'll give you my take on it. Because 99% of people will tell you that this film is just about memory. I don't think so. Personally, I think this film is just dripping in Jungian psychology. But first, as always in my videos, the trivia. So, Total Recall came out in 1990 and it is based loosely on the Philip K. Dick story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. Like many adaptations of Dick's work though, it took the central idea, what if your memories ain't yours, and built an absolute monster around it. Originally it was just some low budget oddity stuck in development hell for over a decade. Dan O'Bannon, who had wrote Alien, was the first to have a crack at it, and at one point David Cronenberg was at the helm. Could you imagine the body horror in that version? That version nearly got made, but its budget kept ballooning, so eventually that version was canned. That's when it got stuck in development hell, until it fell into Arnold Schwarzenegger's lap, and being fresh off the back of Commando and Predator, he had the clout to take control of it. He didn't just want to star, he wanted to produce it as well. He pushed for Paul Verhoeven to direct it, off of the back of RoboCop. And to his credit, Verhoeven didn't hold back. The studio gave him $65 million, a record-breaking amount at the time, and he blew it on full-size Martian sets, practical effects, animatronics, and more fake claret than any sane director would ever need. They had a miniature Mars set the size of a tennis court that needed 90 motion control passes per shot just to get it looking right. The result? One of the last truly great practical special effects loaded blockbusters before CGI took over. That scene where Arnie pulls a tracking device out of his nose? That's a full-sized animatronic head. Looks ridiculous, but it's unforgettable. The cast is full of heavy hitters like Sharon Stone. Michael Ironside plays Richter, chewing every line like it owes him money. Ronnie Cox plays Cohagen, playing basically the same bastard he plays in RoboCop and Star Trek The Next Generation. Critically though, the film split opinion. Robert Ebert loved it. Others though argued that it was inconsistent, gratuitous and plain stupid. The audiences on the other hand couldn't care less what they said because it made over $220 million worldwide, and it went on to become a staple of home video collections. It also went on to win a Special Achievement Oscar for its visual effects, which, for all their grotesque charm, still hold up quite well. But what makes Total Recall more than just a bloody good time is how it feels. It never lets you settle, it never lets you be sure. It keeps asking, who are you really? And that question, buried beneath all of the explosions and all of the gore, is what I want to start digging into. But first, let's have a look at the more conventional interpretation of this film. The first and most obvious interpretation of this film is that it's about memory. You take a man, you mess with his memories, and you ask, well, who is he now? Is he still the same person he was yesterday? Or is he someone entirely new? The film keeps you on edge by never confirming to you whether Quaid is actually Hauser or just a builder with an overactive imagination. But either way, it raises the central question: are we just the sum of our memories, or are we something deeper? That's what everybody fixates on, and for good reason. The film's built on that tension. The moment Quaid visits Recall and chooses that secret agent package is the moment that you as the viewer start to suspect that this is all a fantasy, all built out of his deepest desires. He wanted adventure, he wanted power, he wanted importance, and then suddenly, the very next moment he's embroiled in a conspiracy, killing spies with ease and unlocking the secrets of Mars. It's suspiciously convenient, but it's that ambiguity that gives the film its staying power. Another way to view this film is that it's a political allegory. You've got a rebellion on Mars, a corporate dictator hoarding oxygen, a colony full of oppressed mutants fighting for survival. This isn't very subtle. Cohagen hoards the oxygen like a medieval lord would hoard the grain. So now Quaid becomes a stand-in for revolution. The man from Earth, the off-world everyman, goes rogue and becomes the messianic liberator of an entire planet. There are very deep shades of imperialism here. Earth exploits Mars, Mars pushes back. Quaid's transformation mirrors the classic hero's journey. But seen through the lens of anti-colonialism, it gets murkier. Is he actually helping the rebels, or is he just playing out a fantasy? And then there's this interpretation. This is the big one. This is one everybody argues about. The dream versus reality question. Did any of this actually happen? Or was it all part of the Recall implant? There are clues that point both ways. The technician at Recall says Quaid will get a blue sky on Mars. And that's exactly what we get at the end of the film. He's also warned before he even goes to Recall that if it goes wrong, he'll believe that the fantasy is real. He'll be locked inside it forever. And what happens? He is told again and again that this is all a fantasy, and he refuses to listen. Even the structure of the story feels like a lucid dream. Events escalate too quickly and characters start saying stuff that sounds like it's from Quaid's subconscious. Melina is exactly the woman that he asked for. Everybody reacts to him with the intensity of a stage play. It's all a bit too perfect. So maybe Recall did work. Maybe everything after that moment was all a delusion. Or maybe the delusion is that it wasn't. And that brings us full circle. All of these readings, the wish fulfillment, the capitalist satire, the political metaphor, and the whole is it a dream ambiguity, they all work. They're layered, contradictory, sometimes even at odds with each other. But that's the magic of the film. It's a surface level action film that invites you, even dares you, to keep digging. But the more you keep digging, the more uncomfortable things get. And that's where we're going next. There's something wrong with Douglas Quaid. He wakes up every morning next to a perfect wife in a comfortable apartment with a steady job. And he hates it. He's restless, haunted, and fixated on Mars for reasons that he cannot explain. This isn't just boredom, it's deeper. The kind of unease that scratches under the skin and whispers, this life don't belong to you, and maybe it doesn't. He visits Recall, a fantasy implant company. They don't offer dreams, they offer the illusion of authentic experience. Want to be a playboy, a war hero, a millionaire? Just say the word. They'll make you believe it. Quaid chooses Mars. Not a holiday, but a life. A secret agent, a rebel, a brunette lover. He's a mug. Everyone knows redheads are the best. He chooses a fantasy that offers him danger, importance, and freedom. And then, snap, the machine glitches. The illusion begins. Or maybe reality does. The film never tells us for sure, and maybe that's the point. From here on, we're in uncertain territory. Quaid kills effortlessly. He finds hidden messages from his past self. People know him, they fear him, they want him dead. He discovers he used to be someone else, a man named Hauser, who worked for the enemy. He even meets the woman of his dreams, literally the woman he described at Recall. Everything unfolds just as he imagined, which should make him feel powerful. But it doesn't. He looks lost, unsure, afraid. The more he becomes like Hauser, the more he seems to shrink, because maybe he doesn't want to be that man. And that's where things get interesting. Sure, you can read Total Recall as a twisty sci-fi thriller, but beneath all the explosions, all the one-liners, there is something deeply psychological happening. This isn't a film about discovering who you are. It's a film about realising you spent your whole life avoiding it. Everywhere Quaid goes, he's confronted by versions of himself. Laurie, his wife, she calls him baby. She cradles him. She seduces him. She tries to soothe him back into compliance. When he resists, she turns on him, violently. The maternal becomes predatory. Later on, Melina, she confronts him. Is this who you really are? She asks. She doesn't mean the hero. She means the killer, the operative, the sociopath. Quaid doesn't know how to answer. And here is where it gets deeper, because what if Hauser and Quaid ain't just aliases? What if they're archetypes? The ego and the shadow. Quaid is kind, confused and full of longing. He wants connection. He wants to do the right thing. Hauser, on the other hand, is ruthless, confident, powerful. He doesn't flinch. He gets what he wants. He's the part of Quaid that got buried to survive in the world that he lives in. You could say that Hauser is the man that Quaid had to kill to live a good life. But now that part of him is coming back, and it's seductive. The film never makes it clear whether Hauser is Quaid's shadow, or perhaps more interestingly, vice versa. I actually like to think that Quaid is actually Hauser's shadow, but like gone rogue and taken over. Either way, they're in conflict. Quaid's terrified of becoming Hauser, but sometimes, especially in the violence, you get a sense that he likes it, like he's waking up parts of himself that have been asleep for too long. So, what's the truth? Maybe it doesn't matter, because in the end, this isn't a story about identity being revealed. It's a story about identity being forged in the clash between who you are and who you fear becoming. And throughout the film, there's this strange, recurring mood. Scenes that feel like they're watching him. Characters that glance off camera. Environments echo back his choices. The whole world seems constructed to test him. It's unsettling because it feels like something deeper is being dredged up. Not just memories, but impulses, drives, parts of himself that he thought were buried. He wants to do the right thing, but the path to redemption is soaked in blood. He wants to save Mars, but to get there he has to become a killer. He wants to love Melina, but she's just a fantasy that he ordered. It's like the film saying, be careful what you want, because it might reveal who you really are. That's the true engine of this film. Not identity, but confrontation. Every step Quaid takes forward in this film is another step deeper into his subconscious. Venusville, with its mutants and its neon sleaze, is more than just a slum. It's a dreamscape, a psychological war zone, the place where all of the repressed parts of society, and Quaid, are dumped. He's walking through his own id. Verhoeven sets it all up like a maze, filled with false paths and riddles and doubles. But there's no answer waiting at the centre, no big reveal, no solid truth, just the same question, echoing louder and louder. What are you afraid of seeing in yourself? It's a brutal question, and it's not really for Quaid, it's for us. Because while Quaid runs from reality into fantasy, or maybe the other way round, the film turns the camera on the audience, and it starts to feel like we're the ones being tested. Why do we want the fantasy to be real? Why do we want the clean ending? Why does it matter so much whether Quaid's dreaming or not? The film never tells us, because the answer's personal. Total Recall is a provocation disguised as popcorn. It tempts us with action, women, rebellion, and escape, and then it quietly asks, what part of yourself are you trying to forget? It's not just a movie, it's a psychological trap, and the only way out is to ask the question, what if the fantasy is more honest than the life? So, where does Total Recall leave us? Well, it leaves us staring at a blue sky that might not exist, standing next to a woman that might be a dream, after saving a planet that might never have needed saving. And it asks us, not just what's real, but whether we're willing to sit with the unreal. That's the genius of Verhoeven. He don't just give you answers, he gives you yourself, refracted through the prism of a sci-fi action movie. And it's not just psychology, this is a cultural critique as well. Total Recall is a film born at the tail end of the Cold War, deep in the belly of Reaganomics and consumerism. It's soaked in American excess, but underneath all the blood, the sex and the corporate satire, it asks a bigger question. If everything you are is a product, then what part of you is still real? Verhoeven isn't condemning the system, he's testing your response to it, just like he's testing your response to Quaid's ambiguity. Just like Recall itself, the film is offering you a fantasy, and then it stands there watching how you react to it. Do you choose clarity, control and happy endings? Or can you live with doubt, duality and darkness? That's not a twist, that's a mirror. And for those who see their reflection and don't flinch, this film rewards you with more than explosions and more than one-liners, with truth. So, was it real? Was it a dream? Or even better, why do you care so much? So if you've made it this far into the video, likely as not you've got opinions on what I've said, so I encourage you to leave them in the comment section. Also, if you made it this far, why don't you hit the like button? Or even better, subscribe. You could even share the video with a fellow sci-fi fan. All of that would greatly help the channel out. If not though, never mind. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.